No bueno, Stephen A. It's time for the latest edition of the battle. This time we pit Stephen A. Smith's Pittsburgh Steelers versus Max's new favorite team. You've been claiming them actually for a hot second, the Cleveland Browns. You each get 3 answers, but only 30 seconds each to defend your position. 30 seconds on the clock. Max Kellerman, talk to me.
The number one reason the Cleveland Browns will be better than the Pittsburgh Steelers is the offensive line. Pro Football Focus rated their offensive line number 1 blocking for the pass and number 1 blocking for the run. Number 1 in both. Every year there's a number 1 offensive line. It's almost never that they're best both in pass blocking and run blocking. But that's what this offensive line is. And as a result, you have a devastating running attack behind a two-headed monster in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who, by the way, remember when Marshawn Lynch was on this show? I asked him who reminded of him. He brought up those 2 guys.
Over the last couple of years, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had arguably the worst running attack in all of football. That will not be the case any longer. Najee Harris out of Alabama is in the house. And as a result of that, you've got somebody that Ben Roethlisberger to hand the ball off to, who will run the ball effectively, who will chunk up yardage. He's a 3-down back. He will move the chains. That will take pressure off of Big Ben. It'll take pressure off of everybody else, including the defense. The running game is my number 1 reason. I got more, but that's definitely first on the list.
Max, number 2.
Because of 1 running back in the draft.
You
no offensive line.
30 seconds. No
okay,
time to
try
play
this
around.
one. Try this one. The defense. They added Jadeveon Clowney. Whatever you want to say about his ability or inability to get to the quarterback, he is a former number 1 pick. He is athletic. He is fast. He's stout against the run, and he's playing opposite Myles Garrett, who is also a number 1 pick and arguably the best in the business. They improved on the defensive line. They're getting healthy in the secondary. The defense, which wasn't bad, should be better. And what pairs well with a vicious running attack behind the best offensive line and a 2-headed beast at running back? How about a defense?
Please, when you talk about defense, you better talk about those Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the hell you better talk about. How about Minka Fitzpatrick? How about Stephon Tuitt? How about Cameron Hayward? How about T.J. Watt and the crew? Excuse me, this was a top 3 defense in the National Football League last year. It's going to be just as good, if not even better this year, because my man Devin Bush is coming back. He's no longer injured. He'll be in the house as well. Better look out. The Steelers defense. Better recognize. There we go.
Yeah. How about this one? Try this one on for size. You know what number 3 is? The quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Oh, he was much maligned early in his career. Remember when Alex Smith had 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years and we were all bemoaning that? Baker Mayfield had 4 head coaches in 2 seasons and 1 game. 4 head coaches. Soon as he got some stability with a good head coach in Stefanski, he took off top 10 QBR in the league. I asked Dan Orlovsky on my radio show yesterday, Stephen A., what does Baker do above average? He said elite ball placement and a big arm, can throw the ball 70 yards. That young ascending quarterback behind that line.
Who did you have on your radio yesterday?
Dan Orlovsky.
Dan Orlovsky?
Yeah.
Means absolutely nothing to me.
Stay
you know
focused,
why?
Stephen A.
You know why? Because he was on your show. Y'all
Stephen
never
A, you're
agree.
chewing up
Y'all
your
never
clock.
agree any other time. Suddenly, y'all bosom buddies. Please stop
right.
it.
That's why you know it's true.
Here's the bottom line. Big Ben Roethlisberger. You better look out, Max. This is it. This is it. The swan song is coming. Let me tell you something right now.
Really
Let me tell you something right
me.
now. You got Clay Chasepool, okay? You got Juju Smith-Schuster, who surprised everybody, and he came back. I'm looking at Deontay Johnson and the crew. I know James Washington says he wants to be out, but that's only because he know he got a bunch of people that are ahead of him.
Stephen A., you better hope Ben Roethlisberger stays healthy. That's all I have to say.
Let me see these reasons. Let's review these reasons for a second. I need to see them quickly. Do we have them here in the bottom?
How about
Max?
that?
Okay, so Max, you want offensive line, defense, Mayfield, Stephen A., running game, Steelers, D, Big Ben. You know what, guys? I like this segment, The Battle, but I think this is very biased arguments, and here's why. Stephen A., of course, is going to defend his team, right? His Steelers, absolutely. He's probably texting Mike Tomlin as we speak. And Max has been trying to prove his prediction, right, about the Browns being good for like the last 8 years, when 3 years ago he thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl.
Who was it, Baltimore?
So you're both very biased. I can't pick a winner.
We've learned from the best. Who roots for their teams more than you, Miss UConn? I mean, please. We've learned from the best. Who are you to sit up there and call anybody out? I mean, you have no objectivity when it comes to anything in stores.
Stephen A., you know who Molly?
You might brag about the 7-Eleven in stores. That's how pathetic you are when it comes to UConn.
7-Eleven a lot.
No objectivity whatsoever. Stop it.
They're good snacks.
Molly is picking UConn in the AFC North.
You guys, get out of here.
That's right. Hey, listen, I got 2 of those 3 categories. I take Big Ben over Baker Mayfield, and I take the Steelers defense over the Browns defense.
I'll take Mayfield over
so let's
Big Ben.
Let's go there now.
The Browns offense.
Hey, I know you're having too much fun with me. You're getting distracted.
Yes.
Stephen A., you're up first. The battle continues. Who has a better season, Big Ben or Baker? And tell me why. 30 seconds.
Easily Big Ben. What, are you kidding me? Big Ben Baker Mayfield's going to be handing off the football to Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's what he's going to do. Why were the Cleveland Browns successful? Because they limited Baker Mayfield to some degree. Now, Kevin Stefanski did a hell of a job, and Baker Mayfield has been, in all seriousness, he's been incredibly impressive in terms of his elevated level of maturity and focus and what have you. He needs to be given a lot of credit for that. He truly, truly does. He ain't playing any games. He ain't just doing a bunch of progressive commercials. He actually wanted more wins than more progressive commercials last season. I give him credit for that. He actually sought that and actually accomplished it. I give him credit where credit is due. But Big Ben ain't going out like this. They started off 11-0. They ended up losing 5 of their last 6, including the postseason game to the Cleveland Browns. I think Big Ben knows that this year could be his last. They got the weapons. They got him a running game. They got him a defense. I think Big Ben is going to be ready, and I think he's going to be called upon and asked to do more than Baker Mayfield is, and I think he'll succeed.
The answer is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is ascending. Ben Roethlisberger is descending. Ben Roethlisberger can be 40 before too long. We'll see in his age 39 season now, 38, 39 season now. He's coming off a year. Everyone's like, well, he'll have a bounce back year. Last year was the bounce back year. He's coming off a catastrophic injury as an older player, and he played as well as could be expected in a new style, by the way, getting rid of the ball quickly. Just couldn't push the ball down the field. Well, it's not all Roethlisberger. It's partly the line. Well, okay, fine. The line can't block for the run. And they had a hard time protecting the passer even. And so he didn't have a lot of time to throw the ball. And because the defense is playing up as a result, they're also even better against the run. It's a vicious cycle. Why is that going to change? Because they got a back? No, you got to address the offensive line in a bigger way. Now you look at Baker Mayfield, coming off a top 10 QBR season without Odell Beckham Jr. And yes, Stephen A., you and I both talked about the lack of chemistry there. Maybe they're better off apart. But Odell's coming to a playoff team now. He's coming to a team where he knows he has to fit in, and he's at the point of his career where he is very aware he has to be a productive, team-friendly teammate right now because he did not get dealt. You're going to have a highly motivated Odell Beckham Jr. on a Browns team that's ascending with Baker Mayfield. It's only going to make Baker even better.
I don't question anything about Odell Beckham Jr.'s talent. The brother's electrifying, and not only that, he's a good dude, and I'm really, really hoping that he ends up departing from Cleveland and ends up in some place like Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers is going to be there.
Imagine.
I think Odell Beckham Jr. deserves an all-world quarterback. Not just a good one, but an all-world quarterback. Odell Beckham Jr. deserves something like that, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, Max Kellerman, once again, you don't get to make that argument. Molly, once again, I'm going to call on you. By the way, the yellow looks fabulous. But by the way, I'm going to call on you, Molly, to remind Max Kellerman of something.
Okay.
Is it not true that Max Kellerman was on the record when Odell Beckham Jr. went down saying that Odell Beckham Jr. was somewhat in Baker Mayfield's way? That Baker Mayfield was allowed to be a better quarterback because Odell Beckham Jr. was out. Because of Jarvis Landry, because of the 2 running backs, because of other weapons that Kevin Stefanski threw out there, that Odell Beckham Jr.'s greatness, you didn't classify him as a bad guy, Max, or anything like that. You were just talking about his greatness and the fact that he demanded, he had his demands and he wanted the ball more and things of that nature. Yeah. Probably compromised Baker Mayfield because once he was gone, you didn't have to focus on just getting him the ball. You could be a bit more judicious in spreading the ball around. I'm saying to you, Max, okay, I'll buy that, which means that problem ain't going away because Odell Beckham Jr. has got to come back, show what he's worth so he can get paid down the line.
Actually, the argument I made is it's a chemistry issue between the two, and they're both better off without each other. However, now that Baker is the quarterback of a successful double-digit playoff team, double-digit win playoff team, And Odell knows at this point in his career, when we talk about the best, right? But he's still got the talent. He knows he needs to fit in. Odell's beef, as you know, Stephen A., was never about get me the ball. It's like, damn, if you're not getting me the ball, why aren't we winning? Why aren't we more productive? Now he's entering a situation where they are winning, they are more productive. Yeah. I think it will be a different story.
Okay. And I'm saying if you're using that,
I just want to remind you of something. I want to remind you of something really quickly when we talk about my fandom. You said Odell Beckham has never played with a great quarterback. Eli Manning.
Not when he played with Odell. Molly.
Really?
That's my quarterback, baby. Future Hall of Famer. Eli Manning.
Odell can say that only one. Odell want to get paid.
Killing me.
Odell want to get paid. Stop it.
See Odell's effect on the running game, by the way?
I made you all
Saquon
smile.
had 2,000 yards from scrimmage when Odell was on the team.
Okay, coming up next, guys, with the NBA Summer League underway, which rookie should we all be watching out for and why it's not the #1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham? Into the Sunday. All 3 games also available on the ESPN app. One app, one tap. So, yes, it's NBA Summer League time, and we want to catch you up on all the things you need to know. So, Max, I will start with you. Who is the rookie that everybody should be watching?
Davion Mitchell. Like when a guy named D. Mitchell, and I understand these parallels with Donovan Mitchell, Stephen A., are staggering before you even get to his game, right? They're about the same height, 6'1", 6'2". Apparently, they're born within 48 hours of each other, or at least on the same, within like both in early September. Mm-hmm. They have extremely similar games on both ends of the floor. They both wear number 45, and their names are D. Mitchell. You're going to see something like we've seen what Donovan Mitchell can do. It doesn't mean Davion can do all those things, especially under pressure, but it sure looks like he can. This guy is going to be excellent. There was a lot of speculation, Stephen A., he was going to fall out of the top 10. I was thinking that's nuts if he does. He didn't. He went 9th. And as deep and excellent as this draft was, I suspect there will be a handful of teams who are like, I can't believe we let Davion Mitchell slip through our fingers.
I feel you. I don't sneeze at that. First of all, we have to be very, very careful about anything we say about any of them brothers from Baylor. Because when we saw them in the national title game, they shut us all up. Let's remind the world of that. Boy, were them brothers special. Them brothers can ball. All right, so I ain't got nothing but respect for them. But I'm a Jalen Green dude right now. I'm watching this dude that the Houston Rockets drafted. He just looks like buckets. This brother's got range. He can get to the basket. He definitely's got hops. He can finish at the basket. He ain't scared. He's got a nice handle, some passing ability as well. Had 24 points in his debut, if I remember correctly, at the Summer League. This brother looks like he's got some big-time talent, and I would keep my eyes on him. I like what I'm seeing from here. And again, I'm partial to cats with perimeter shots. You could have all that athleticism in the world, but if you ain't got any kind of perimeter game, you're going to get exposed on the NBA level. But when you do have a perimeter game, everybody has to pay attention to you. They've got to take notice. They can't sleep on you because you know what? You can drill shots from away from the basket. That's what this guy has shown me he can do thus far. We'll see if he can continue to do it.
Okay, so Stephen A. says Green, Max says Mitchell. Guys, let's go a little deeper. Who's a rookie that may not find success this year, maybe because of their situation, they need some time, but you think eventually will mature into becoming a star? Stephen A., you start.
I'd say Cade Cunningham, #1 overall pick. I'm rooting for my brother Troy Weaver in Detroit. I think they've got a long way to go personally. And as a result, you're gonna thrust him into a situation that he just may not be ready for. I don't think that he's extremely athletic. He's got some athleticism, but Cade Cunningham really, really knows how to ball. Excuse me. You know, he makes good decisions. He's smart with the basketball. He definitely has a perimeter shot. I don't know about his ability to finish at the rim on the NBA level. I'll have to wait and see that. But I just think that his upside is there because he's just one of those dudes that knows how to play. And again, he can hit perimeter shots. So I really, really like his upside.
I would say Jason Preston. I mean, Cade Cunningham is the guy everyone's focused on for good reason. He's been called the best draft prospect since LeBron James, right? Like
By who?
Oh,
I didn't hear that one, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I missed that. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking.
No,
unless
a
you know
few
off the
people
top of your head,
did,
but I didn't hear that.
And it's escaping my mind, but I'll think about that next.
By more than one. Compared to Luka Doncic, but maybe with more upside. Like, he is considered a potential super duper star. That's not the case with Jason Preston. But Preston has been compared to Cade Cunningham. He's been and the Clippers, that's the guy that they went and got, right? And they got him in the second round. They need a playmaking point guard. He has size, he has great passing ability, he has many of the things that Cade Cunningham has, only he's a second round pick. Now, how often do second round picks turn into superstars? Seldom, although there is a reigning MVP who was a second round pick in the NBA. But that generally doesn't happen. In Preston's case, I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, Stephen A., and I'm not saying he's going to be great as a rookie. But given the perseverance he's shown in his career so far, I think there's a good chance that he's a really good NBA player.
Okay.
Okay, next one here, Stephen A., and I don't know your answers ahead of time, what you guys are going to say, but it's who's going to have the bounce-back season, and you better be saying, Stephen A., Klay Thompson, because nobody has talked about him more, being more excited for them to come back and what those Warriors are going to do.
Well, I don't view him as a bounce back because he didn't have a drop-off. He just got injured. I look at Klay Thompson rather as a first ballot surefire future Hall of Famer and one of the top 5 greatest shooters in the history of basketball who automatically ascends the Golden State Warriors to the Final Four of the NBA. That's how I view Klay Thompson. That's how high I have been on him. The name that I'm going to come up with when we talk about a bounce back, I'm gonna pull a name out of the hat. How about somebody like an Isaiah Thomas who just dropped 81 points in some Pro-Am league? This is an emotional pick, Max. Here's why. We forget that this brother was in Boston and averaged 29. But his injuries wasn't handled correctly. And he was never healthy again. And so when I think about him being healthy, I'm like, excuse me, there's a whole bunch of teams that brother can help if he is 100% healthy. Because he could just put the ball in the hole. He's a very, very gifted offensive player. And the money that it cost him, first of all, he was going to get shortchanged because he was a miniature dude. And Danny Ainge wisely, knowing that he wasn't 100% and what have you, didn't elect to invest in him. And he ultimately was traded to Cleveland, if I remember correctly. But this dude has missed out on so much money. And I would love to see him back in the NBA and get an opportunity to really showcase his offensive skills, because there's a whole bunch of teams he could be a huge plus for if he's 100%.
Yeah, that's my actual answer too. He's one of my favorite players of all time. Do people understand what it is for a 5'9" guy to be as good as he's been in the NBA? And that's a real bounce back. Like, it'd be great to see him bounce back. But I'll give you another answer, Stephen A., since you said Isaiah Thomas. How about Obi Toppin? Bounce back from what, right? But he was drafted in the top 10 by your New York Knicks. The Knicks can't afford to miss on guys. They're trying to build the right culture with the right kind of pieces. Obi Toppin, there were other players available who were successful NBA players. He averaged 11 minutes as a rookie. He didn't do a whole lot at all. And he's a talented guy, and he's from the area. He's a fan favorite. And people seem to like him, and yet it just hasn't panned out so far. He's the kind of guy who's easy to root for, and I'm hoping that he has, I guess you wouldn't call it a bounce back, but at least a bounce back to the status he had coming out, where he was, I think, the 8th overall pick by a team that really can't afford to miss on those kind of picks.
Max, let me say this to you, man. I'm rooting for him. Obviously, he's a Knick. Of course, I'm rooting for him. But I was a Tyrese Halliburton guy.
Me too.
I was very upset. I was very upset at the Knicks for not drafting him.
I agree.
And I still believe that he was more of a need than Obi Toppin was, particularly when you consider the Knicks' need at the point guard spot. Even though now you got Quickly with Derrick Rose, and now you have acquired Kemba Walker, so that's no longer the case. Let me tell you something about Obi Toppin. He's a better shooter than I thought he was. Mm-hmm. He can hit perimeter shots. He obviously got hops. We knew about that. Has an NBA body, looked a bit stiff at times or what have you. But I found myself looking at him and saying, this guy needs more playing time. They gave a lot to Julius Randle. Kevin Knox, let's just call it what it is, He hasn't panned out. He was the number 9th pick overall out of Kentucky. I'm still rooting for him, but I think that a lot of people looking at the Knicks see Julius Randle and then, of course, Obi Toppin, even though, Kevin Knox doesn't necessarily play their position, even though he could. He's a bit undersized in that regard. But Obi Toppin, because of his perimeter shooting ability, his poise, he's not scared. He can get physical. I like him. Yeah. I like his upside. And
That's right.
I like him.
He has a chance, and he has to get more than 11 minutes of playing time.
He's got a chance, and you got to give him some more time. Yes.
I hope it's Ben Simmons. All right.
Good one, Molly.
We'll leave it there. Thanks. Coming up, are the Seahawks in dangerous territory with their star quarterback, Russell Wilson, and why this should have fans in Seattle concerned? What? Keep it locked.
Hey, just messing with you.
Camp takes, let's do this. Russell Wilson made headlines this offseason when he made comments about not having enough protection, and now as he prepares for another season in Seattle, he has strong words in support for a new contract for his all-pro tackle, Dwayne Brown. Not having Dwayne Brown out there is a pretty significant deal because I think he's one of the best left tackles in the game. There's no arguing it. I think he's as good as it gets. There's nobody more athletic, more talented than he is. So we definitely want to be able to get him back out there. We've got to figure out a way because we need Dwayne Brown. All right. Camp Takes continues here, and look who's here. There he is. It's been way too long. My guy, two-time Super Bowl champion, Damian Woody.
What up? What's going on, fellas?
What's
up, fellas?
Where's the jacket, man? Where's the jacket, man? Where's the jacket?
You know what? You know
the
what?
Suit jacket, man.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you what the jacket actually is over, like right across the room.
So why don't you have it on?
Leave it over there just to get on your nerves. That's what I did. Because
why you got to come on first take? Why you got to come on first take looking like you just mowed the lawn? So I'm gonna just throw on this shirt to because I'm supposed to be on TV. Why you got to do that?
Why? You read my credentials. I'm a two-time Super Bowl champion. When I come on the show, this is my show. Plain and simple. That's the way I roll. The way I've been rolling.
He threw the championships at you.
You know what, Molly? You know what, Molly? I got him, Molly. I got him. D Woody, I got news for you. I got bad news for you. Because you got a little pink. I mean, it's a little darker than pink, but I'm in the pink family today as well. Mine's look better than yours.
Oh
I just want to say that.
I just want to say that.
That'll get him to upgrade his wardrobe. I'm looking better than you right now, D Woody.
Molly, I think that's a mature response.
I'm looking better than you right now. You got me looking better than you.
I will never understand men, honestly.
I'm just saying.
You guys are just a different species.
Molly, I apologize.
In my life.
Molly, I apologize. I want to be sensitive. I want to be sensitive to Mr. Mozart with the piano in the background. I just want to be. I don't want to be sensitive to. I want to hurt his feelings.
Stephen A.
Hey,
that was a real laugh.
I'm gonna play this piano on this show one of these days. I'm telling you right now.
Molly, may I answer a question that you might have about sports? Is that possible?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to ask it, or you want me to ask it? I'll ask it.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, Max. What's going on with Russell and the Seahawks?
That pink shirt. Okay, listen. This is what's happening for real. They're wasting the primes. They're wasting one of the greatest primes in the history of football. Like, think of all the great players in the NFL. In the last half dozen years, maybe there's never been a single season where Russell Wilson's been the best player in football. But if you take his total value over the last half dozen years, probably the best player in the game in this era. He's had more value probably than any other player in the game over those 6 years. No off years. Like, he's just great every year. And it's going to waste. You know why, guys? Because the Seahawks at some point made the decision. Remember when they moved on from the Legion of Boom, and they were like, okay, we're going to pay Russell Wilson. So we got to build the offense. Remember when they traded Max Unger for Jimmy Graham? They clearly made the decision, we don't need to invest much in terms of resources in our offensive line. We'll get guys, we'll coach them up. It didn't work. The offensive line completely fell apart, and it's been an issue since then. Now, it's gotten better. It has gotten better, and a lot of the reason that he's pressured so much, Russell Wilson, is because he holds the ball too long, and he knows that too. But it's not a great offensive line. The best player on it, by far, who's all-pro caliber, is Dwayne Brown, and they want to play games with his money? Guys, it's like, I know they're worried because he's 36 years old. That was the worry about Andrew Whitworth. How's he been doing with the Rams? He's still around balling. You have to pay Dwayne Brown. Russell Wilson knows it, and apparently now Pete Carroll and everyone else got the message if you want to not waste the prime of one of the best players ever.
Max, I would tell you that you're not wrong, but it goes deeper than that for me. And the reason that I say that is because we know what the offseason entailed. No, Russell Wilson had never demanded to be traded. Excuse me. But he did tell his agent to alert everyone to what teams he would want to go to in the event that he was traded. Okay,
on the record. On the record.
So we understand that, right? And then obviously him and Pete Carroll meet up and what have you. What is that telling you? It's not about the fact that they just have problems with Dwayne Brown's contract. It's the fact that Russell Wilson is telling you, yo, do something about this. And it speaks to the very thing that he was complaining about coming into the offseason, which made all the headlines. So the amends that was made, ultimately one would assume, was that they conversed with one another. Pete Carroll said, we're listening, we hear you, we hear your concerns, we're going to address it. And yet now you still have this problem. That's a problem. And that's what this really, really is about. Russell Wilson should not have had to come out publicly and say what he said about Dwayne Brown's situation, especially when he went into the offseason complaining about those things. The fact that he finds himself now gives the impression it was just lip service that he received.
By
I'm
the
not
way,
saying that's the case. I'm not saying that's reality. I'm saying that's the way it can be absorbed unless the Dwayne Brown situation is resolved, because it's exactly the kind of stuff Russell Wilson was complaining about.
He would, and Seattle better have learned from the Packers situation, because Russell Wilson can opt out after 2022. So that means going into next year, there's 1 year left on the deal. Don't play around.
Well, listen, first of all, Russell Wilson is absolutely right. Dwayne Brown is one of the best left tackles in the league. You know, why mess around with that guy? Of all the guys on offense, why mess around with that guy who's been, you know, a staple for the Seattle Seahawks on the offense? That's number one. Number two, you know, when you look at the Seattle Seahawks, you never want to be dealing with contract situations in training camp. They actually got two situations that they're dealing with. Not only Dwayne Brown, but Jamal Adams, who they traded for from the New York Jets. So they got two situations, two of their best players on their team, that both players are unhappy as far as their contracts are concerned. And Stephen, you brought up Russell Wilson and the whole list and all those type of things. Don't think these things aren't in the back of his mind, you know, with how the team is, you know, messing with the contract situation of both of these guys. They got a new first-year play caller, Shane Waldron, who came over for the Los Angeles Rams. If they don't look, Russell Wilson has come out and said they should have the best offense in the league. That's what he's saying. If they don't come out firing, don't think that this is not going to play out after the season is concerned, especially after the fact that Russell Wilson's agent put out publicly about teams that he could possibly look at to be moving towards if this whole thing doesn't play out the way he wants to this season.
I mentioned it, but guys, look at the Packers situation. I think the Seahawks that must have scared them, right? Because they're like keeping it just good enough with Russell Wilson. But the fact that it's gotten to this already is a bad sign. And not that Russell Wilson is being treated with the disrespect that Aaron Rodgers was treated with, but when your all-time great franchise, future Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning quarterback says, that's my blind side protection. Our line hasn't been good. Don't mess around. Pay that man. You better not play games. You better pay the guy.
And not only that, the other pieces are there. You got Rashad Penny and Chris Carson both back for your running as your running backs. You've got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as your wideouts with Russell Wilson. Why would you get in the way of that? If everybody else is there for you, why would you compromise the protection of your quarterback who's supposed to be relied upon to make everything happen? It makes no sense whatsoever. They got to fix this. And again, it elevates in terms of really, really highlighting what's going on, because Russell Wilson complained about this in the offseason. You cannot have him bringing this stuff up again. It shows you didn't listen to him at all. That's what it ultimately comes down to. They better not mess that up.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it on that note. When we come back here on First Take, guys, Max thinks his Giants will win the NFC East, but is Saquon Barkley the key piece in the Giants making a playoff run? We go around the NFL after the break. Let's go. Tomorrow, as camp takes roll on, we dive into one of the most intriguing divisions in the NFL.
The Bucks are a more well-balanced team, and Brady is still great.
You know who I am? I'm Patrick Mahomes. This is the best in the world right now.
Is it possible to win a Super
You live from the Seaport District, New York City, brought to you by Chase. Good morning to you. We begin in the NFL here. Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson has now had COVID-19 twice, but when asked by reporters Monday whether the Ravens have spoken to him about getting vaccinated, he was non-committal on vaccines. Here he is discussing his experience with the virus.
I was just like last time, probably fatigued. If anything, I was sleeping a lot, but I'm glad to be back. 10 days being off, I ain't like it at all. So I'm just happy to see you guys, see my teammates, see the fans. I'm just glad to be back. It's over with.
Lamar, had the Ravens talk to you about getting vaccinated, and are you worried about getting it for a third time?
I mean, I just got off the COVID list. I got to talk to my team doctors and, try to see how they feel about it, keep learning as much as I can about it, and we'll go from there.
Back in November of last year, Jackson first tested positive for COVID-19, forcing him to miss one game. And fast forward to this year, as you just heard, he missed 10 days of training camp, which in the NFL rule for unvaccinated players who receive a positive COVID-19 test result. Max. What is your reaction to his uncertainty about receiving the vaccine, considering he's had 2 bouts with COVID?
The ignorance regarding the vaccine is staggering in this country. And vaccinations generally, this predates our recent political climate. This goes back to an anti-vax movement. I remember when I lived in LA, I couldn't take my kids to Disneyland because the measles had broken out. What? The measles? Because there was a ludicrous anti-science, anti-vax movement based on hocus pocus and nonsense. And I love people who think that with their homespun common sense, they're going to be an internet sleuth for 5 minutes and see through the thing that people who have been in school for 20 years studying this and the top immunologists in the world are all saying, everyone, like Lamar Jackson should talk to his doctor. You know what his doctor is going to say? Get the vaccine. That's what all the doctors are saying. Get the vaccine. And it's 90-something% effective. You can still get COVID, by the way, even if you have the vaccine. But people out there, well, I have the antibodies. I don't need the vaccine. You know what the medical community says? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So if you think with your common sense you're going to outsmart by getting some confirmation bias on the internet in 5 minutes, I'm here to tell you, you're wrong. I shouldn't have to tell you you're wrong. We're still in a pandemic. It's getting worse right now because an enormous number of people are extremely susceptible to extremely low quality information. And let me just hand it to you like this, Stephen A. It's amazing that NFL players who have sued teams because they're throwing all kinds of stuff in their bodies, painkillers and this and that. Oh, I didn't know what it was going in my body. Are now turning around and saying, in the middle of the pandemic, when everyone's hoping and praying for a miracle, and here it is. Well, I don't know what's in that. I can't put that in my body. And for those who would say, well, yes, because what they've learned is they can't trust the medical community. No. What they've learned is maybe doctors hired by teams are in ethically compromised positions. You think the CDC is? You think every single expert, genuine expert in the world is telling you the same thing because they're compromised? Or do you think maybe you just are superstitiously or whatever it else is scared to get the vaccine? If everyone got the vaccine, we'd be out of this mess.
Let me stick to just football with this because as it pertains to what you said, I don't disagree with you, Max. You know, I'm on the record. I've already stated what my position is. I'm double vaccinated. So are you. So is Molly. Obviously, I'm a proponent of taking the vaccine, considering the world that we're living in and the things that have been going on, and the reality that not doing so not just endangers ourselves but endangers others. Having said all of that, I think it's important to recognize that every situation is different in this respect. There are some people that are just home and they're not around a lot of people that are incredibly reluctant to take the vaccine. Although I disagree with them, I'm not as dogged against them because they're not endangering other people. That's not the case when you play in the NFL, particularly when you're a starting quarterback. And so just the other day, we got all over Kirk Cousins because of how ridiculous he appeared to be. And I felt that it was important that if we're going to get on Kirk Cousins, we need to get on Lamar Jackson because I think his situation is just as, if not even more egregious than Kirk Cousins, because Lamar Jackson already tested positive for COVID. He already missed a game. And so now you find yourself in a situation where you've already missed 10 days of training camp. This is a Baltimore Ravens offense that had the worst passing attack in the entire National Football League. The reason why they had the #1 rushing attack is because of that dude, Lamar Jackson, who's rushed for over 1,000 yards. He's a singular entity, essentially, because no quarterback in history has done that. Run for back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons from the quarterback position. That's the reason they have the #1 rushing attack. And considering how valuable and how important he is to the success of the team, to sit up there and not do everything he could to get himself, to insulate himself from potentially spreading the vaccine or even capturing it himself to some degree is mind-boggling to me. And I just think that it's incredibly alarming that he says he's 24 years of age and he says, well, I got to talk to my teammates. Well, where the hell have you been? Have you not been talking to them? What have you been doing? And your point about all the other stuff that they put in their bodies that they're not even aware of. But suddenly you need to know everything and all the ingredients about this vaccine when throughout your professional career, your collegiate career, this stuff injected into your body that you didn't have, you had limited knowledge about. I mean, give me a break. Come on, man.
Stephen A.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Let me remind you, because I brought this up a couple weeks ago. According to an Economist YouGov poll, it was widely reported in the middle of July. So I don't know if this still holds true, but it held true a couple weeks ago, according to the poll. 51%, that's the majority, of unvaccinated American adults believed that the government was microchipping the population through the vaccine. In other words, they're injecting microchips. What I'm saying here is,
did you reveal the source of that info? Is that true?
Yes, the Economist YouGov poll. It's according to an Economist YouGov poll.
I've heard people say that.
It was reported widely.
Never heard that.
So the majority.
So you told me the other day. Never heard that until you told me the other day.
So what I'm saying is these are people who are clearly susceptible to lunatic conspiracy theories and extremely low quality information. And I just want to say, even to them, and you and I said this the other day. I said it and you seconded it. We understand this is America. Ain't no one going to put a needle in your arm that you don't want to be there. And everyone would fight for your right to refuse anything. 100%. This is America. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But then stay home. Because the rest of us don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
We'd like to eventually emerge from this pandemic.
No, that's a great point, Max. It's about more than just us. Then it's being selfish and you're potentially endangering other people and their livelihood, and they could potentially even end up in a hospital.
And in his case, Molly, he's not only missing work. Isn't he looking for a new contract? Patrick Mahomes got his money. Josh Allen got his money. All right. Lamar Jackson is due to get his money and what have you. And I'm just saying, you're a quarterback. You know, part of it is being a leader. And when you're willing to defer so much to other people, you're going to talk to people. Well, you should have been talked to them. You should have been made a decision about this. And I just some of the things that he says, about this, I don't get. I'll just leave it at that. I just don't get it.
But to your point, Max, if people are exercising their right and don't want to receive the vaccine, at the very least, please wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Don't want to wear masks.
For the rest of us,
It's very important. It's very important. Listen, the mask is important, but it's also important to watch in. It's some
Don't be
nasty folks out there.
Don't be nasty.
It's some nasty
Don't be
folks out
nasty.
there.
And you're supposed to really lather it up.
You know how many times I've been in the arena? Obviously, I had to go cover the players. Now, you know how many times I was in the arena, man, and I had to use the bathroom, and people go in the bathroom, and they come out there, and they don't even wash their damn hands. It's just disgusting.
And
it's just nasty.
And they shake
It's
your
just
hand
nasty.
real quick.
It really is.
A breakout case of COVID, according to the last numbers that I saw, Stephen A., in a fully vaccinated person is something like 1 in over 10,000, right? So we're not saying this. I'm fully vaccinated, so are you, so is Molly. For ourselves, the irony in all this is the people who are imploring others to get vaccinated are saying it because we want you to be safe.
Yeah.
We want you to be safe.
We're all in it together. All right, we'll leave it there, guys. When we come back, a rocky offseason between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So shouldn't Seattle be doing everything they can to keep this man happy? We take a closer look into what's going on in our wide receiver, Michael Thomas. Can't guard Mike is obviously the Saints' best receiver, but tension appears to have been brewing for quite some time. So an injury-plagued 2020 saw Thomas suspended by the team, and Thomas reportedly ignored calls from Saints officials for months after the season. Now, with Coach Sean Payton publicly lamenting Thomas delaying an offseason surgery that'll keep him sidelined into the fall, the wideout has implied the Saints are trying to damage his reputation. Thomas tweeting this cryptic message. They tried to damage your reputation. You saved theirs by not telling your side of the story. I like that quote. When asked about it, Sean Payton said he's not responding to social media. Take a listen.
Look, we're focused on our guys, and obviously we're focused on Mike getting healthy. But outside of that, you know, it's never been an issue.
Do you want to address anything he insinuated today?
No, I don't want to have a press conference based on social media.
That's fair. I wouldn't either. Stephen A., what does this say about Thomas and the Saints?
I'll leave what's going to happen with Michael Thomas to Max Kellerman. It's a bigger issue for me because I don't think Michael Thomas looks good in all of this. I want to emphasize that I'm not accusing him of lying. I don't know anything about what's going on other than what's reported. I haven't spoken to him. I'm quite sure his truth is his truth authentically to him. And I get all of that. And I understand it. What I want to ask Michael Thomas respectfully to do is pay attention to the optics. In late July of 2019, Michael Thomas, age 26, a wide receiver in the National Football League, received a $100 million contract over 5 years from the New Orleans Saints, with $61 million in guarantees. At that particular moment in time, he was the highest paid wide receiver and I think non-quarterback in the history of the National Football League at that particular moment in time. I'm sure it was wide receiver. I'm not sure whether or not it was every other position other than quarterback. But it was exorbitant dollars, guarantees, and we didn't see that every day. And then suddenly we have all of these issues. Now, we know he had like torn deltoids, ligaments in his ankle or something like that, if I remember reading about it. And because of that, he wasn't healthy. My point is, Max and Molly, the season ended for you in January. What the hell was surgery in June about? That would be February, March, April, and May before June. That's at least 4 full months. What the hell were you doing that you couldn't get operated on in that 4-month period? Now, if it's the organization and that's what you're implying, most professional athletes with exorbitant contracts that I know are big on second opinions. So if it's the Saints, then it must have been somebody else. And if it wasn't the Saints or anybody else, what the hell was the 4 months about? Because you know you got a football season coming up. Why are you waiting until June? And the reason I'm asking that question is because if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Molly and Max, isn't that what Sean Payton had an issue with? Isn't that what the report said 2 weeks ago? That Sean Payton had a problem with the fact that the surgery was in June. And so we understand all that. Now, this is Michael Thomas here. 149 receptions 1 year, 125 the year before that. 327 catches over the first 2 years of over the first 3 years of his career. So you had a quarterback in Drew Brees throwing you the football. Last time I checked, we looked at the New Orleans Saints, and even though Pete Carmichael was an offensive coordinator, we look at Sean Payton as the primary play caller for the New Orleans Saints. Well, why Michael Thomas getting the ball that much? Because that man is relying on you. And if he's relying on you, and then you got surgery in June, when you knew you had the injury all season and it ended in January, it's hard to look at him and say, well, damn, you the victim. Because the coach has every right to look at you and say, I sincerely hope you're exhausting every means and measure to make sure you're going to be out here because I invested this $100 million in you for a reason, which was $20 million a year, which was more than Julio Jones was getting paid at the time, Max. That's where I'm at with it.
Well, my impression is Michael Thomas is not long for the Saints. I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think they want him there. About a year ago, he was on top of many lists as the best wideout in the game. Let's not forget it. Wasn't that long ago. Who would put him as the best wideout in the game right now? Now, what's happened in the last 12 months? He got hurt. That affected his game. Obviously, your ankle's going to affect your game. He was in a locker room brawl. He had social media beefs, including with the Saints. But most importantly, Stephen A., Drew Brees is gone. Drew Brees retired.
Yep.
And not only does that mean the most accurate quarterback in the history of football is not throwing the ball to one of the best hands in the history, right? Like a guy who catches everything, but it means he's being replaced with a guy who threw 30 interceptions when last playing a full season, and a guy who hasn't played quarterback for much of his career as his primary position. Michael Thompson can't be happy about that. And Drew Brees was a public booster of his, right? Of course, that's his best receiver. He's now gone. Stephen A., what's happening with Michael Thomas, and I don't think Thomas wants to be there for the reasons I just pointed out. And from the Saints' point of view, this is something that Marcellus Wiley used to bring up on Max and Marcellus, the old radio show in L.A., Stephen A. He said, when personality doesn't match production, that's when you have a problem. They'll put up with the personality as long as there's production. But when the production falls off, and if Michael Thomas is not healthy, he's not going to be able to produce. And maybe if Drew Brees is there, that also affects that. When the production falls off, suddenly they don't want to deal with the personality. For that reason, I do not think Michael Thomas will be a Saint for much longer.
Can I ask one question to both of you really quick, Stephen A., and then go ahead? One thing I don't totally understand with what Max just said is I understand Michael Thomas not wanting to be there with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston throwing him the ball, but why do you think the Saints wouldn't want him? And Stephen A., if you want to...
Because his speed is affected, his game is affected by the ankle, right? Like that's one thing, and that's a big thing. And then he's causing problems for them in social media, but doesn't have the production to give them the cover to say, okay, this is worth it.
First of all, he got injured last year. People have come back from injuries. You have a wait-and-see approach so long as they're exhausting every means and measure to be on the field and to make sure they're ready to go. Here's where, again, we're on the outside. I'm not pretending to know. I haven't spoken to any of the parties involved. This is just based on the information that has been disseminated to us all. I think it's important to point this out, guys. You know something? Drew Brees was hinting towards retirement a couple of years. Michael Thomas didn't sign this contract in 2015. It was 2019 that he signed this contract. It's just 2 years ago. So when you signed that contract, you had an idea that the 5-year, $100 million deal you signed and agreed to, for the most part, Drew Brees wouldn't be there for most of that. And one of the reasons they gave it to you is because you were supposed to be trustworthy. And this is the part that we don't talk about much. And I keep telling y'all, you have to get into that. It's incredibly, incredibly important. This notion that you just get paid because of your talent is a misnomer. It's false. That is not true. Because talent is also, you're also projecting. what somebody's level of production is going to be. That involves some level of trust. I'm trusting you're going to be as close to 100% as you can get. I'm trusting that you're going to go all out to maximize your potential. I'm trusting that you're going to be a leader. I'm trusting that you're going to validate for me as a coach in an organization that you are worth this investment that we are making in you. And when you do anything that deviates from that, it's a bit problematic because it doesn't just affect you, Max. It affects the people who follow you because now other organizations don't want to get caught up in investing those kind of dollars, and somebody might end up not answering the call.
Well, but accept that. Consider the position the Saints were in at the time. You still have the tail end of Drew Brees' prime. Right. He's still a really good quarterback, and you have a stacked team. So you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Under those circumstances, the moment is so high leverage that you may invest additional years so you can spread out the cap hit and additional dollars in a talent like a number one receiver because you want them right now and you'll have to deal with it down the line.
But that's answering, Max, why the Saints did it. I'm saying why you took it.
Why Michael Thomas took it? $100 million?
No, I'm not questioning that. I'm saying you took it knowing all of that.
Yep. Maybe he thought there was going to be a better. Maybe he thought there was going to be a better replacement.
I agree.
Stephen A. A better replacement to Drew Brees and a better plan, like what the Packers tried to do with Aaron Rodgers and get ahead of it.
I think that's right. Drew Brees was aging, and the Saints did not seem to have a realistic plan to go forward. A stopgap, yes. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, stopgap measures. But who's the going forward franchise quarterback? Yeah. And Michael Thomas is not a fool. He can see, what am I going to do?
Yeah. All of that stuff is open for debate to me. The one biggest thing I have the issue with is the 4-month gap from when the season ended to when you got operated on. Yeah. You got OTAs, you got training camp coming up. How in God's name do you get operated on in June when you know good and damn well the season ended in January? That's my issue. That's the only question I have.
That's why when Michael Thomas says, hey, I'm not saying things to protect the reputation of people who are trashing mine, I wonder what the answer is to that.
And maybe he's going to come out. Maybe he's going to come out and respond to that at some point after hearing this criticism. But I just want to say one thing before we go to break. Thomas has the most catches in NFL history through a player's first 70 games. He did just come off injury. He's 28 years old. There's no reason that he can't get back to the player that he was.
I think he's going to get back to 100%. I believe in him. I just want to know why he waited that long to have the surgery.
And not for the Saints.
Maybe we'll find out. Okay, when we come back, guys, Lamar Jackson has had multiple bouts with COVID, but still remains non-committal about receiving the vaccine. Stephen A. and Max get into the significance of this next, and Lamar's Ravens, viewed by many as the favorites to win the AFC North. But coming up, we dive into the Steelers-Browns rivalry, why Stephen A. says we shouldn't be sleeping on the black and yellow. We get into it.
Me and Melo go way back to my sophomore year in high school to his junior year in high school. We met there and had a little bit of a friendship that I knew could continue. We know we're family, we're brothers, but as competitors, we coming after each other.
LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony have been best friends for more than 20 years and fantasized about playing together for quite some time. Well, according to LeBron James, quote, "The time is now. I want you. We have to make this happen." And they sure did make it happen. Carmelo is signing a 1-year deal with the Purple and Gold. Here he is at his introductory press conference discussing the criticisms about waiting too long to team up.
I mean, for years we've always laughed about it and spoke about it. What it would be like. We had a little bit of, experience with the USA basketball and playing together, but that's totally different than in a situation like this. But we've always talked about it, laughed and joked about it. But I thought and he thought at this moment now, everything comes back full circle for us, and I think the time is now for us to be on the same team. You know, it couldn't have came at a better time.
You're 37. LeBron's going to turn 37 in December.
We don't care.
Dwight's up there. Trevor's up there. Mark Gasol's up there.
Don't care. We make our own narrative.
Age ain't nothing but a number. Max, I'll start with you. Is Melo enough for the Lakers to bring home the title?
No. He's not enough for the Lakers to bring home the title. It's not a knock against Melo. It's just that the Brooklyn Nets exist, and if they are healthy, they have too much firepower, and the Lakers are constructed imperfectly, though they did an amazing job in the offseason. Carmelo was an excellent pickup, I think. To lead your second unit, he has real value. I don't know about in the starting unit. They probably, I'm guessing Wayne Ellington starts, and maybe Gasol or maybe Carmelo does, and they play a smaller lineup. I don't know. But as a leading scorer in the second unit, Carmelo's a really good job. But this doesn't actually affect his legacy that much if they were to win a championship. And Stephen A., this should be when you talk about the pressure on Russell Westbrook this year, Carmelo should serve as a reminder to Russell Westbrook of that pressure every day. Because even if they win a championship, it won't be with the real Carmelo Anthony. It will be with an old, diminished Carmelo. I want to be very clear. When I thought he was cooked, I was wrong, and he was right. He proved his point in Portland. He is a valuable piece in the NBA. On a good NBA team, he can still play. Okay? I want to make that perfectly clear. But this is not Carmelo Anthony of half a dozen years ago. The point of that legacy was when you are still a truly great player, can you be one of the 2 or 3 best players on a championship team? Can you, he doesn't have to be the very best, but can you be a second at least on a championship team? And he didn't do it. Maybe he could have done it. Carmelo is an exceptionally excellent player. So maybe he could have done it. To be fair to Carmelo, he never quite had a championship team around him, did he? But he didn't do it. He wasn't in that position. He didn't put himself in that position, and no one else did either. And so now he's no longer, when we talk about Carmelo Anthony, we're not talking about this guy when we talk about him years from now. We're talking about that guy. That's why the pressure when you talk about Westbrook is on Westbrook now. Because if Westbrook eventually wins the championship as the 5th best player on a team, that's not what we're talking about. That's Gary Payton, an all-time great. But when we think of point guards who won championships, Gary Payton doesn't jump to mind among the very best, and he was one of the very best. Even Jason Kidd, I want to be clear about this. Kidd is on the fence. He won a championship when he was still really good. Was he still Jason Kidd the way he once was? Even that, to me, is borderline. It's not like what Isaiah Thomas did, for example, or what Steph Curry did, for example. That's the pressure right now on Westbrook. I think Carmelo serves as a reminder.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong about that. And here's why. First of all, when you talk about Jason Kidd being on the fringe, you can say he was on the fringe, but the reality was that Dirk Nowitzki was at the top of his game. And the fact that you're going up against elite competition, which was the big 3 in Miami, says something about it. Remember, we didn't think that Jason Terry was better than Jason Kidd. We understood that the Dallas Mavericks, as constructed, along with being exceptionally well coached, as a team ended up upending LeBron, Bosh, and Dwayne Wade in their first year in Miami together. So nobody views Jason Kidd on some fringe of anything. That's a Max Kellerman narrative. That's not anybody else. That's number one. Number two, when you think about Melo, let's look at what we're talking about here as we look at the Los Angeles Lakers. Is LeBron James a top 5 player on the planet? Yes. Is Anthony Davis a top 5 player on the planet? Yes. When you look at Russell Westbrook, a walking triple-double, as he is presently constructed right now, look at what he brings to the table. He's box office. He plays at 100 miles an hour. He goes after it. We all know what he brings to the table. Carmelo Anthony was never viewed in that light. He was a prolific scorer, a career 24-point-per-game scorer up until a couple of years ago. We knew what he could do offensively, and he was special in that regard. But when you talked about top 5 players on the planet, Carmelo Anthony wasn't in that conversation. And so now we fast forward to 2021-22 season. And what do we see now? We see a dude that's fresh off of shooting 40% from the field, a dude that averaged 13 a game last year after averaging 15 a game the year before, all right, COVID and all of that other stuff that was going on, C.J. McCollum being out, all of these different things happen. But in the end, when you look at Carmelo Anthony, he's a 6'8" perimeter player. You still look at him in that regard. Clearly, you can look at him and say he's not what he used to be. I'm not trying to act like that's not the case. But this precipitous drop-off that everybody tried to put out there about him when he couldn't get a damn job in the league, and then he ultimately ended up being interviewed right here in this studio with me, you know, looking for a job. It was utterly ridiculous and insane that he was ever subjected to that. And what did LeBron James do at that particular moment in time? The answer would be nothing. LeBron James should have had Carmelo Anthony as a teammate. I understand that Carmelo ultimately ended up going to Portland. I understand that LeBron James had to come in there and say, now's the time. We got to get together on this. But easily the argument could be made. This is something LeBron James should have done years ago. LeBron James has had at least a couple of opportunities to have Carmelo Anthony as his teammate at least a couple of years ago, particularly and specifically when Carmelo Anthony was unemployed and nobody in the league wanted to touch him. And LeBron did not make that happen. Now that he's on the Lakers, let me tell you this. With LeBron, with AD, with a guy like Russell Westbrook who's going to create open shots, don't sleep on Malik Monk. Don't sleep on Horton Tucker. Don't sleep on these brothers if you give them wide open shots, because you've got to prioritize defending the big three. They can do some things for you. That makes them a championship contender, and I'm happy that he's in Los Angeles, and I think he makes them better, not worse.
First, when you say that's my narrative, let's put it this way. I'll give you a spectrum of credit given to point guards who won championships. You can disagree. Isaiah Thomas gets more credit for his championships as the point guard than Jason Kidd does because of where Isaiah was in his career at the time. It was very clear. Isaiah was a great player who was probably, I would say, and it was a very good team.
Pause before you go on.
Yeah.
Pause before you go on.
Yeah.
My point is, I understand what you're saying about where Isaiah is. What I'm saying is, in Jason Kidd's best day, still, Dirk Nowitzki was on another level.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
You can be the second best player on the team. I mean, had Kidd done it a few years earlier, I believe he would have gotten more credit when he was more at the height of his powers. He was still an excellent player because he was a great player, but he was no longer what he once had been, in my view. And therefore, Isaiah, on the spectrum of how much credit you give guys for championships, right? Isaiah's over here, Kidd's over here, Peyton's is over there, right? It goes on that spectrum. Peyton gets the least credit because he was least close to his prime. And my point for Carmelo is, yes, it'd be a nice thing for him to win a championship if he contributes as a valuable runner of the second unit offense or focal point of the second unit offense. He will get real credit. If he's an 18-minute-a-game player who plays sometimes, he will get less. But at any rate, it won't mean the same to his legacy as had he done it half a dozen years ago when he was one of the very best players in the league.
All I'm saying is that depends on the team. Like, for example, if you're talking to me about Carmelo Anthony in the role now compared to when he was with New York or Denver, that's a given. But what I'm trying to say is that, Max, if he averages 20 to 25 a game, if he averages 20, 25 minutes a game, right? Let's say, for example, he averages 15 to 18 a game. And come playoff time, and particularly the finals, that's the brother you go to in the fourth quarter that's drilling 3 or 4 perimeter shots. I'm saying to you, that's going to be a very valuable component, and nobody's going to be talking about a drop-off because that's what we were accustomed to seeing from Carmelo.
I agree. I think that is an unlikely scenario. I'd root for it to happen because contrary to popular belief, I do root for Carmelo Anthony. He was the one guy in 25 years who was like, I want to go to the Knicks when I used to root for the Knicks, and I always appreciated that. So I would hope that you're right. I'm saying, I would say the odds are against that Carmelo is an 15 to 18 point a game scorer this season, and in the playoffs is even better in critical moments. But it would take something like that for it to really have an influence on his legacy.
Yeah.
LeBron and Russell Westbrook. Who on the planet Earth is going to get Carmelo more open shots than those two?
Yeah.
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 Carmelo more open shots than those two? Yeah. LeBron and Russell Westbrook. Who on the planet Earth is going to get Carmelo more open shots than those two? Yeah. Carmelo more open shots than those two? Yeah.
Listen,
They'll get them open shots.
Absolutely. I have a different mindset. I'm happy for them. What a blessing to be able to play with someone you love in your 19th season. That's incredible. Anybody that gets to work with their best friends or family, those kind of situations. Yeah, his 19th season. Earlier. Yeah, his 6th different team. And the Lakers have the second best odds, guys, to win the title behind the Brooklyn Nets. Let's keep it rolling. To the NFL we go. The Saints will be without Drew Brees for the first time in a long time as their drama brew.
Association. His name is Luka Doncic. He's a bad brother. Make no mistake about it. But I do have a question. Why does this impact me in no way whatsoever? Why do I look at the Dallas Mavericks and say, so what? I'll explain in a minute. First takes in the house. Let's go.
People expect a lot from me. You gotta be concentrated for every game because you're trying to win every game.
Here's Luka. It's gone! A Doncic dagger!
Accuracy is second to none. Best of the best, woman best yet to come.
Wow, what a pass by Doncic. There's the triple-double for Luka.
I just trying to have fun with the game. That's when I best play, and that's my key.
I mean, everybody's just getting paid these days. No, not really at all. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to First Take. Thank you for being with us, Max Kellerman.
Superstars get paid.
Superstars do get paid, yes.
Superstars
even during
should get
difficult times.
No doubt.
Yes, sure. They produce, they deliver, and they receive. And that's where we're starting. What's going on, Stephen A?
Hey.
Hey, Dallas fans smiling today, guys. Luka Doncic, one of the most accomplished players in NBA history at the age of 22 years old, agreeing to a 5-year, $270 million Supermax rookie extension with the Mavs. Did you hear me? $270 million. Doncic, who finished his 3rd season in the league, becomes the first player eligible for the designated rookie max extension upon signing because he has already been twice voted first-team All-NBA. The deal includes a player option in the final year, that according to Woj. Stephen A., what should we expect from Luka?
More the same. You should expect a dude that's going to go out there and average better than 25 a game, that's going to lead his team to the playoffs, that's going to establish himself as a superstar basketball player in this league, and one who has the potential to be the face of the NBA in every way, shape, form, and fashion. But also somebody who's going to be a bit truculent with the officials, somebody that's going to have his immature moments, somebody that is going to ultimately end up incredibly dissatisfied unless Mark Cuban primarily, and now to a lesser degree, Jason Kidd, do something about it. And that means get rid of Kristaps Porzingis and get in a bona fide, big-time, dependable number 2. Because that's really what this comes down to. We can slice it any way we want to, but that's really what this all comes down to. Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic aren't the ideal teammates with one another. We've heard reports about Porzingis and Doncic not getting along. We've heard folks alluding to jealousy on the part of Porzingis, who's not the most reliable individual in the world because of his lack of durability. He's fresh off of averaging 20 points a game this season, Max, but in the end, he wasn't as big of a factor in the postseason as we all hoped he would be, as you specifically hoped he would be. And as a result, that's where we are. It's Luka and everybody else. And if you're the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban, you got to do something about that, plain and simple.
Well, that's right. This is a debate show, but that's correct, and that's what I was going to say. It is on Mark Cuban. Let me explain why. Like, what should we expect from Luka Doncic? You said more of the same, Stephen A. I just say more and more. Look, he has improved every season. When you look at what he did last year, regular season, he's like a 28, 8-8 guy. Know what he was in the playoffs? 36, 10, and 8. So not only does he get better year over year, but in the first year in the playoffs, he was 31, 10, and 8. He is a superstar who elevates in the biggest moments and gets better every year and still has room for improvement. He could play better defense, and he's capable of it. He could shoot it better because he gets his own shot. He shoots it pretty good. He could shoot it better than he does. So there's a guy who gives you 36, 10, and 8 in the playoffs. He's going to wind up doing like what Harden does. He's going to give you around a 30-point triple-double on average for a season, but unlike Harden, better in the playoffs. Okay, now, that's what you expect from Luka. What can you expect from Mark Cuban? That's the question. Now, he hired Nico Harrison, Stephen A., the Nike guy, longtime Kobe guy, right? And he is, by reputation, a brilliant and very well-liked and connected guy around the league. And it's one of these Mark Cuban outside-the-box moves that everyone's, talking about. The bottom line is you are in a warm-weather, glamorous city. You are in a no-state income tax place. You have a history where you've won a championship and a team-friendly owner. In an era of big threes, you can't get by with a big one, maybe not even a big two, but at least you need a crime partner for Luka. Porzingis is capable of being that if he can stay healthy, but in his career to date, he has not shown the ability to do that. That's the availability, especially in Porzingis' case, because he has to spend every year kind of getting back to where he was. He can never advance. They need to get Luka help, at least one other superstar to join him. And they have, unlike some cold weather, small market town without any kind of history, without a team-friendly owner, they have, as you would say, Stephen A., no excuses. Mark Cuban has to make it happen.
And just to be clear, guys, there was an error. It is 207, not 270 million. Just want to make sure to clear that up.
Yeah,
Stephen A?
That's 63 million. They can sign a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, Max. I'll say this to you. Once upon a time, you were absolutely right about Porzingis. Not anymore. And here's what I mean. Even if healthy, Max, by all the things that I've been hearing, it's not going to work. This is a guy that has a problem with Luka Doncic being the face of the franchise. This is a guy that has a problem with being perceived as a number two. This is a guy that has a problem with Luka Doncic being ball dominant per se. Again, I haven't spoken to Porzingis. I've never spoken to Mark Cuban about this. Let me be very, very clear about it. I'm just saying based on the things that you hear in NBA circles, these are the kind of things that are being said. When something like that transpires, Max, it doesn't matter if you're healthy or not. It's not going to work.
No, I think that's right.
You have to have somebody that's selfless. And when you got a talent like Luka Doncic, it's not just to be respected. It's to be appreciated. Damn near revered. That's what it has to be.
I think that's right.
And I think it's important that we recognize that. And so, again, when you look at it from that perspective, that's what we're talking about here. And if you don't have that going on, if you're in the city of Dallas and you are Mark Cuban and these guys, it's like, wait a minute here. It's like, whoa. When you think about it, it's the city of Dallas. And I joke around about because, I just love to hate on the Dallas Cowboy fans. But I know what a great sports town it is. I know what a great fan base they have. I thoroughly enjoy being there. I enjoy going back and forth with them. I've never had to go back and forth with them about the Dallas Mavs. Anytime I'm at a Mavs game, they're getting on me about the Cowboys. But nevertheless, the bottom line is that it's a great city. It's a great state, no state income tax and what have you. And it's a metropolis. When you look at what's going on and what they have going on, there's simply no excuse why you haven't been able to get a free agent in a decade. It really isn't.
Well, I agree with you about Porzingis. I think a lot of that actually stems from the fact when you are diminished, it is difficult to kind of accept it. Like Porzingis was a guy trending toward, oh my God, he's going to score 25 points a game with double-digit rebounds and shoot the lights out as a 7'3" unicorn, right? But it didn't work out that way because of the injury. And when you are not as effective and when the team is losing, that's when trouble comes up. Now, that was the issue with Porzingis. Can he stay healthy? The answer is no. Can you get something for him? I think the answer there is yes, they can. The question is just one guy enough? It seems to me the Dallas Mavericks with Luka, a second banana, and role players is not good enough because you look around the Western Conference, the Warriors are going to be back with Steph and Clay and Dre and now a lot of young athletic talent, including Andrew Wiggins, who's a real two-way player. The Lakers have a legitimate big three. In the Eastern Conference, the Nets have three guys who are different, not to mention Blake and everybody else. The Mavericks are going to need a whole lot. If this was a league where that stuff didn't exist, they'd be okay. They can flip Porzingis into something else and maybe make a run. But Luka, a genuine all-star as a second banana, and what they have is not enough. Mark Cuban has to figure out a way to surround Luka with much better talent. Much better talent. I think Nico Harrison's a good start.
Not just Mark Cuban. It has to be Jason Kidd as well. You're a point guard, like, for example, but Jason Kidd was a point guard everybody wanted to play with because, you know, Jason Kidd was a guy that was looking to distribute first. That's not necessarily Luka. We know that he can, but Luka plays at his own pace. He's brilliant at dictating pace and making sure that you don't rush him, that he moves at his pace. Well, the team, we talk about the opponents and how problematic that is for them. What we never talk about enough is whether or not that's attractive for other teammates to want to play with. Just because you're great doesn't mean everybody wants to play with you. Jason Kidd is going to have to make this system attractive enough to appeal to people to want to come and play with Luka. It ain't just on Mark Cuban. Yeah. It's on Jason Kidd, too.
Yep.
Absolutely, and that's why he's the youngest player to ever to receive a $200 million contract. Again, 5 years, $207 million to be exact. All right, let's move on to the Lakers, Melo and LeBron.